We can edit it.
And
All right, you fuckers.
It's on.
Welcome to the pilot show. This is Denny. I'm here with Mary, and we're in the fucking, what are we going to call it? The fucking strength lab?
Strength lab.
We're in the strength lab.
That's good.
So, yesterday we were having a conversation about overcoaching. And I've seen this shit, I've done it, right? And I get it. I kind of felt like at the time when I did it, it was just like the passion, right? Being so passionate about what it is, just eagerness to like share with, those that you're working with, some of the knowledge you've learned. And there's those times when it's like, you go to these seminars, right? Or anytime you're just kind of like talking about this shit, and you kind of get like some knowledge bombs dropped on you, and it's exciting, right? And you just can't wait to freaking share that with somebody, to test it, just to kind of like express that. And it can almost just be like freaking like word vomit, just walking up to somebody and just being like blah, throwing up all over them, right? Because it just flows, and you got to learn to like dial that back, right? You got to learn to like, it depends on the level, the athlete that you're working with. But if it's just let's just start with like newbies, right? Somebody coming in, just learning the movements. Let's start there. They come in, the soccer mom, she wants to learn. Let's go with the Olympic lifts, right? It's technical lifts. Everybody, most of the people who are around kind of get excited about those lifts. So there's not so many legit coaches in this area, right? I know everybody watches a YouTube fucking video and thinks that they're coaches, or maybe they're proficient at the lifts and think they're good enough to coach. In reality, we're nothing near what the caliber of coaches that are out there. Dudes like Mike, Greg Everett, freaking, just who else? Whatever, right? Like, I mean, we can get our point across that it's going to take more than just like a weekend seminar or something like that to teach these lifts. But you can become educated on them, and you can help out somebody who is like at the beginning stages, right? So there's those who just kind of, like I said, throw up all over everybody because you throw too much at them, and it seems you're going to get farther with them if you maybe give them one or two cues to work out and walk away. We're in a group environment. We're trying to coach up 5 people.
It becomes overwhelming.
Right. So what's the best? Well, in our opinion, like the best way to kind of take that person is to what? Like,
do like the step by step. Tell them what it is. Tell them why you're doing it, and then demonstrate it. Don't have them don't have them overthink it by saying too many things. Literally just show, and kind of like show and tell. So after you've seen them, then you kind of start tweaking from them, because you want to start with the basics. You say, okay, we'll take the snatch. Here's your power position. Here's your hang from the floor. Here's from the floor. You don't want to start, all right, let's pull it from the floor today. Like, you want to take it from that first step. So teaching them how to get the right just hand grip. People want to grab it too close, grab it too far, and people start overthinking that too much. Like, you can go into every single position and overthink everything. And that's where you get then you get your athlete where they get to this stage where they've known most of the movement and they want to get it right, and then they start overthinking it. And as a coach, you have to say, no, just do the movement. Like, it's that easy. Just, sometimes we overthink it. Like, I have a member who will do the snatch, and they're like, oh, I can feel my hips not doing this, and I need to raise my arms, and this and this and this. And I'm like, why don't you just worry about the movement? Like, just do it. and whatever, if I see anything, you know, like I'll cue you one thing and you focus on that. And then
Right.
they'll ask me another question like, but I can feel like, you know, I'm coming up too soon or this. And I'm like, no. Like, you have to tell them, you know, like, stop, just do the movement first. You know, like if it's not going to hurt you or if it's not going to, it doesn't look like it's going to hurt yourself or the people around you, like, you should only just focus on that one thing. Like, you know what I mean?
Right. Like you can see them, they're moving like a robot. You can
Right.
see fucking them go through every sequence they've been taught, right? By whoever. And sometimes you just got to be like, look, you know what? Everything I just said, forget everything. Right? Just do it. Make it happen. Right? Like give them the freedom to make mistakes, right? Don't just stand there and be too critical.
Right.
They're just
Don't
gonna
say,
get
okay, we're
nervous.
gonna dip, we're gonna do this, we're
Right.
gonna do that,
I want
and
your
this
chest
is
up.
how it's
Elevate your
gonna do.
scapula. Big breath
What
in.
you want to
tuck your chin.
do, right? All you want to do is just, all right, I'm gonna show you what we're gonna do. Okay, set up. I sit up, get my posture right,
Boom.
put myself in position, do the lift. That's it. And then I'm like, now you do it. You saw what I just did. I'll cue them, you know, make sure you have your hands wide, you know, because it's a snatch.
Right.
And then whatever they do from there, then you kind of deconstruct it from them. So, okay, say they're bending their arms too early and they're pulling with their arms into them. And then, you know, when they go to lock out, their legs come out and flail out. And then, you know, you get those people who like start looking like a star when they do their snatch.
The jumping jack
So then
snatch.
you take it back, you know, okay, let's start with your shrug. Boom. That's it. That's all you're going to work on. Shrug. Until you get that shrug right. And you're not bending your elbows, you know, focus on that one thing first. People, you know, as coaches, we want to get ahead of everything and we want them to do the full movement, realizing that there are literally techniques as an Olympic lifter where you're only doing shrugs, right? You're doing heavy shrugs. You're doing high pulls. You're doing, you know, snatch balances. So it's like, why is it once we only get to that point where, you know, like the elite level or more athletic people, we're now breaking it down. But for the people in the start, we don't just work with them with the shrug, you know, like just work on your shrug today or work on your high pull or just do a snatch balance today. We're always like, all right, let's do for the power position and go overhead. What's the purpose of going overhead when they don't even have the shrug down, right?
Do you think
so you kind of even have to decompose or what's the word?
Like break it down.
Right. Like deconstruct it.
Even,
you know,
engineer.
More. So, you know, that way it builds confidence for the member too. You know, like, okay, awesome, this feels great. This feels great. All right, let's move on to the next step. Let's get that high pull going. Let's keep that bar path straight. You know, you don't want to, again, why are we going to make them do a power snatch when they can't even do the shrug right? So,
do you think we're in too much of a hurry to kind of catch them up to speed?
Right. Yes.
Right? It's the fucking Google generation, right?
Exactly,
like everybody wants everything now.
Right.
And it's like, all right, here it is. When it could be just like, hey, you know what? Work on the first pull.
Right.
The most overlooked, right? Everybody can extend. Where do you see the most faults at? Everybody's knees can always get back more on that first pull, right? And nobody really, and then in the third pull, nobody really pulls under the bar. They kind of drop and wait for it.
And the active arms. So, okay, you shrug, they want to bounce the bar out. So if they can shrug with a consistency of pulling the bar towards them and up, and then be able to snatch it with that straight line rather than bouncing it out or curling it or whatnot, that's way more valuable than just, all right, let's do the snatch. And then, you know, they're bouncing it out. They're creating bad habits by bouncing the bar off their bodies. I know growing up, you know, my cleans, you know, I was demonstrating to you that one time where I literally bounced it up, curled it up, and I dropped under it, you know, like that's not a clean. That's just bouncing weight off your body and trying to catch it.
You know, I've talked to dudes who are like, you come into my gym and you're going to do nothing but straight up PVC pipe work for 6 months until you master that shit, right? And you hear these stories about like the Chinese lifters, the best in the world, you know, just with a broomstick, like mastering the fundamentals. And when I hear that, it's like, oh yeah, that all makes sense and it's great, but it's like, fuck, who's got that fucking time?
Right.
You know, I don't have time to fuck. If you're not interested in this within a week, you're not gonna fucking come back, right? So I mean, there is that pressure, and maybe the people who come in and they, you know, they fucking try it, they don't like it, or they don't like what you're saying, and they leave. because if you're taking too long to get them to this place, are the people you don't want to coach. But if this is what you do, if it's not about memberships, if it's just about like sharing, right? Like you're a strength and conditioning coach, right? A painter's a painter. You can put a painter in a fucking gas station, and he can be a gas station attendant, but deep inside he's a painter, right?
Mhm.
So if this is what you do, that it's not about how many people you can get in through the door. It's about teaching like the best, coaching them up, teaching them to
At
move the
that point, I
best
think it's
possible.
worry about the people who are staying there and
Hmm.
focus on those people who are taking our feedback, right? Quantity or quality over quantity at that point.
Absolutely.
Obviously, it's important to keep, you know, the people coming, but how much more powerful it would be when you focus in on, that set group and then what they can bring in so that your quality only gets better and better and better rather than the quantity that's coming in and you just want to keep spitting out members and members and members rather than focusing on making this gym the best moving members that we have. And then people come in and look, wow, they really put those 5 people and made them look good,
Yeah.
like
Like
then
they
that's where
move
it
differently.
comes, right? And it's because we took the time to deconstruct, right?
You're in a group environment, so now we have the better movers, right? Like the soccer moms, they've been given something to kind of work on. The weekend warriors. Now you have the people who are a little bit more. They take their training a little bit more seriously. Maybe they want to do like a competitive exercising thing, which probably is going to have some version of the Olympic lift, or maybe they want to do a legitimate like Olympic lifting competition. You get that kind of a person, and you're warming them up, and you're watching them move, and some of the things I see is even in the fucking warm-ups right now there is a point to kind of have these people. Everything does kind of start with the warm-up, right? You have them with the bar and you're putting them through like a complex. You want to reinforce certain principles, right? Like take the time to get your knees back, feel the balance of your weight distribution in your feet, right? Those are the kind of things that I say. Feel, am I too far on my toes? Am I on my heels? So there's a point of, okay, I want you to think about these things in a warm up, but then there's also the point like let them fucking warm up, right? Like they're gonna put some plates on the bar and they're gonna do, the first couple movements at any time of training aren't always the prettiest, right? You got to kind of get ready and kind of feel it. Don't start one set, okay, like 80 pounds, they do a fucking snatch. You're like, whoa, 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 whoa. Here's 20 fucking things to work on, right? Like,
now do you think now we think about the different levels of the beginner, the intermediate, and then there's that autonomous stage where they're already doing it. We have members who come in, they know the movements, they know what to do, and it's that fine tuning. So are we still using this over coaching with the whole spectrum of members or just those beginner types?
Well, like there's times when like I'll address the group and say something like that in the warm up, like feel the weight distribution on your feet, right? Are you pitching too far forward on your toes? What are your knees like? What's your back like? Is your neck neutral? That's kind of addressing, those are things for everybody. That's food for thought for everybody, right? And then as I walk around you have to give it some time to watch, right? Like don't be so critical on every single rep they do, right? If it's 1 RM snatch day there and it's going to take 10 minutes to kind of warm up, because everything, for the better movers, everything looks pretty good with lightweight. It's not till the weight starts getting challenging that shit breaks down, right? Then they're going to need you to coach them. Then they're going to be like, they're going to look at you. They're going to look, if it's a group thing, they're going to do it, and they're going to look to see if you watched what they just did, right? And a lot of the times, like I try to make that eye contact when they do, right? Because now they're looking for you to coach them, right? There's a difference between that and just walking up to them and giving them too much when you're just going to overwhelm them. Even somebody at that level.
So what are we going to classify as too much? The people are listening, they don't understand. They're like, okay, well, I'm telling these people
more than
to do
one
this,
or two cues. How about just one cue?
So let's say our example is we have
It
our
depends on what you
remember
see.
doing a snatch.
What do you see?
And they're just going to do a power snatch from the power position. We'll have them do that. And you see, you know, they're totally coming up on their toes too early. They're catching on their toes. They're leaning forward. Everything's kind of just forward. So then they finish and they look at you and you're kind of like, well, you need to stay back on your heels. You need to, weight's got to be in the middle of the feet to start, and then you'll come up on your toes and then land like hard and soft and aggressive, and then lock those arms out,
Mm-hmm.
and then, you can go even deeper into that. Make sure your elbow sticks out. Da 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 da. So how about we take that back to just, all right, so they're leaning forward. What does their start position look like? Are they starting correctly in the power position?
Mm-hmm.
Are their shoulders aligned with the bar or slightly in front? Or not behind the bar or super forward in front of the bar? Like, are they leaning too much to start? Are they doing that hip teeter-totter pop rather than coming straight up like a vertical jump?
Mm-hmm.
So then what would be your 2 cues for that example of someone going forward?
I'd reinforce starting with the weight on like the front of your heels, right? Heels more. Most people I see do tend to lean forward, right? I like to kind of stand up against the wall, dip like an inch or two on my knees, and be like, this is how I want, right here, your shoulders are behind the bar, you're like posteriorly, right, engaged, if that's even a thing. I would start with that, and
so you
then
say your 2 cues are
weight on the
mid-foot
heels,
heels, and bar placement with your shoulders, right? Those would be your 2
I'd go, if they're catching it and then they're pitching forward too much, right? They're landing on the balls of their feet. I would start with like sit on the heels and then maybe like put the bar behind your spine. Something like that, right? Because usually what I see, if people are going to land forward, it's because they pulled forward. Their torso's either leaning or their knees are, instead of like kneecap over maybe like each little toe on that kind of a dip, their knees are completely forward, like over their big toe, right? So they're already going to like pull from the balls of their feet and pull forward. Everything's going to be forward, so they're going to dip forward when they catch it. If they're back, they're on their heels, they're just dipping, they're back straight, everything's like posterior, and then they pull under the bar and think about setting it, over the spine or the top of the back of the head or whatever you want to say, right? Like if they can just focus on that, heels, bar over spine, that kind of reinforces like everything is back, right? And I'd probably go from there. What about you?
basically the same thing. Just keep that.
Don't copy me.
I'm not copying you.
Don't copy me.
I'm just saying it all starts from the beginning. So if they're leaning forward too much, I just say reinforce that whole, is the shoulder in line with the bar or slightly in front? You don't want to be like, if they're leaning over too far, say, how about we sit back, bring our body up a little bit, have better posture,
Mm-hmm.
kind of set that up right. Tuck the chin in, make sure, they're not sticking their head out. That could also cause another thing, Everybody always wants to look like that little ostrich look.
So if you see 5 different things that are wrong,
it could be a result of the first thing, though. So if you can fix the first thing, it'll fix the other 4, That's why you want to stick with one thing. It's kind of like, when someone's sick, okay, say they have like a food allergy, they're eating 4 different things throughout the day. You take away 3 things and you just eat the one and see which one is your issue, right?
Mm-hmm.
So say I eat an apple, banana, bread, and cereal throughout the day. I'm getting sick. Okay, well, take away one of them. Are you still getting sick? If you are, okay, take away the other one, bring the other one back. Just keep eating and try to figure out which one's making you sick.
Everything builds on everything, right? Like that's a good point. You could, and what would even be better is if like it was the simplest cue in the world, right? Keep your feet flat. Keep your fucking feet flat, right? Like if it was that easy, right?
That's how we have to portray it, though, right?
Yeah, but I mean,
if we make it
want to
seem
get so
overcomplicated,
technical,
then they get
right?
so...
Coaches want to get so technical, like find this magical cue because they've seen videos of fucking Mike Bergner who can take somebody and get them the PR in like 2 minutes, right? I mean, that's great, and I've done that. Not that I'm comparing myself to Mike Bergner,
right.
but I mean,
no, I get you because
right. You get somebody new, and they're like, "Oh, I've never gotten past 120 pounds on my clean before," and it's like, "Well, let's see what it looks like," and then you can just make a couple adjustments, and they PR by 5 pounds, right? That's a great feeling. You feel like if you accomplish this great
I've
thing.
had that on both sides as an athlete and a coach. Being coached up and having one thing tweaked, and you are already throwing up 10 pounds more.
Right.
And then,
and
like that
what is
one
that
week I
one
had.
thing?
Right.
Is it this magical? Okay, I want you to squeeze your diaphragm together and breathe out at the exact same time, and only have 80% of it. It's not that. Usually, it's something like set your wrist right.
Right. That's what it was for me. It was
set your fucking wrist right, right? Yeah. And all of a sudden, it's like, that was simple. That's all it took, and it's like, yeah, well, fucking keep it fucking simple, right? Who the fuck knows how to engage their fucking diaphragm when the average
everything
person
already is engaged, though. That's the thing. Is like everybody always wants to say cue the muscles, but your muscles are already working.
Now we're getting
you just have
Anthony
to connect
Lowe.
Your body and your mind, which is a huge thing I emphasize in my warm-ups. It's like, okay, I think I started to gear away towards saying contract your muscles, because your muscles are contracting. I'm going to put you in this movement, your muscles are going to contract. I'm going to put you in plank. You don't have to think about contracting your muscles, your abs. Your abs are already moving.
Fucking doing
They're already firing. So to say it is kind of, what is the word, redundant or whatever the heck? Whatever, repeating yourselves. And
yeah, I think redundant's the right word.
So the thing you have to just say is like, okay, notice your muscles contracting, or feel your abs working. Focus on, visualize. Yes. Mm-hmm. Like kind of know what muscles are kind of really firing, like really burning right now. Like, okay, obviously your shoulders are going to burn on a plank, so they'll be like, all right, I'm burning. So what's not? How about you contract your quads? Is that going to take away from, at least mentally thinking about your shoulders burning and kind of ease it off a little,
Yeah.
It's that mentality. A big thing this past 4 weeks of training is the mentality of everything. We can be physically fit, all whatever. Okay. Like just having the connection with your body, if that makes sense. That's the thing with new people is nobody has body awareness.
No, they don't.
Having body awareness is key in this as well, because as a coach, you can give them cues all day, but until you ask them, okay, where do you feel that? And they start saying their lower back, or they start saying, oh, I'm feeling, what's another one?
You're feeling
snatch.
Low back, my knees hurt, fucking, I don't know. But I mean, that's like the thing that like Anthony Lowe talks about, right? Like squeezing everything, turning. And Mark Rippetoe, I remember him being like, everybody wants to like turn your hamstrings on. And it's like, working. You know what? It is on, right? Like otherwise you would just fall to the ground, right? Like everything is on. And when you squeeze,
if you're standing,
or you have like this massive retraction, retract your shoulder blades, retract, right? And I'm guilty of these things too, because I mean, everything's like a learning process. Even as a coach, how you coached from day one isn't going to be how you coach now compared to how you coach the first day one. It isn't going to be the same, right? You're going to make mistakes. As long as you're getting people to move better, right, or trying to, then it's okay, right? But it's all right to kind of like go through this learning process. But when you tell everybody to squeeze all this or retract all that, you actually like put them in weaker positions, because you're over. Now they're overdoing the task, right? So like one of the things he had, I kind of like, I didn't argue with him about it, but I was debating him, was like, all right, well, there's times when people need to hear that, the new person who, my back's sore, where it's like, well, you got to keep your back straight, right? And believe it or not, there's people who can't keep their fucking back straight. You either walk up and physically put them in that position,
right, which is what you have to
do. Or you got to give them some kind of verbal cue to straighten up their back. Proud chest. You might have to tell somebody, pull your shoulders back, right? But then there's overdoing that, right? Like
And then it'll cause
retract
that
your shoulders when they don't
right.
need to retract their shoulders, right? And maybe you've developed a habit of saying that. Knees out, knees out, knees out, knees out. I fucking hate that cue, right? I understand there's a point to that. It should be like knees not in. Do not create a valgus knee, right? But don't now, I've seen people who just they're driving their knees out when they don't even need to do that, right? And going back to one of the things like that Anthony Lowe did was he goes, okay, now get in the worst fucking squatting position, bottom squatting position you can be in. So I get down, I do like a valgus knee, I round my upper back, my head's slouching, I'm shifting my weight over to, I think I just chose like my left side, and it hurt to put myself in that position, right? Like my body was physically hurting. I was like, I hope this guy doesn't fucking have me be in this bad position too long, because I'm gonna fucking pull something, right? Like it just sucked. I was pitching forward on my toes, trying to put myself in the worst, shittiest position. And he goes, okay, now correct all that. Now put yourself in what you would think is like the great bottom position. So I adjusted myself, and I was in that shitty position. He had me reach out my arm, and he would grab it, and he would push down. And I couldn't keep, and he was just slightly pushing it down. And I couldn't resist that force of that, right? Because I wasn't in a stable position. So then he's like, all right, put yourself in like this great, fix it. So I fixed everything, right? How I know how to do it. I like balanced my feet out, my knees were set, my back was straight, everything was cool. He's like, stick your arm, and I stuck it out, and he couldn't push my arm down then, right? And then he goes, okay, now squeeze everything. Squeeze your glutes, squeeze your hamstrings, spread the floor, all these kind of cues that like I will give, right? And I was doing all that, and he had me stick my arm out, and he pushed it down again, just like I was in that shitty stable position, right?
Okay.
How did it? You want to try it?
Sure.
So like do that, like
just get in a bad position.
Yeah, sit in the bottom. Just get in like a deep squat position and put yourself in the shittiest form ever, right? If you guys could see this is pretty much like how I described it. Now stick your arm out, right? Higher, out of here, and like resist me pushing it down, right? You can't do it. Now set yourself. Put yourself in what you would call a good, right? So there you are. Now straighten your arm out, right? Resist it. Now squeeze everything. Like squeeze your glutes, squeeze your hamstrings, spread the floor, do all these different types of cues.
Oh yeah.
Right?
What the hell?
It's like a total, that is like that's the shit like that he'll do, right? Like that's worth the price of admission right there.
So then we tell.
And here we are, we're coaching these people, and I used to do it. A squat day, okay, I want everybody to focus on squeezing their glutes, right? And it's like, fuck.
That's a good example. I like that, because when I just did that today actually with the jerk, telling people to keep everything in the core tight. You don't want to be loose, because if you think about the overhead movement, if you're loose, everything's kind of around, right, and you can hurt yourself. So like when you get in that start position to press up, keeping it nice and tight, locked in, squeeze your butt, and I think that what you're saying is everything what I did this morning. I'm like, well, shoot, maybe I won't do that anymore, right? So I guess we're just going to focus on, okay, so then, give me an example and something then for the jerk, let's say the jerk now, what to say instead of squeezing the whole body to press up. What?
Maybe you don't say anything. Maybe you got to see, maybe it's like, all right, on a jerk thing, what I usually see is everybody, again, they dip down on the balls of their feet. Their heels elevate, you know what I mean? Because that naturally we think about jumping high, and we want to shift our weight to the balls of our feet. I was taught, and I agree with the whole dip down on those heels, right? So maybe like when it's jerk day, right? And I'll address the group. I'll be like, all right, we're going to work up to like a 3-rep max. I want everybody to focus on like dipping down on their heels, right? So there's the task for the day. Dip down on those heels, right? Yeah, and then maybe I'll give them something else, like try to, maybe it's the elbow position, right? Because you're not in a completely like the world's greatest front rack on a jerk. You do bring those elbows down to maybe where you got like 45 degrees between your elbow and torso, right? They come down somewhat. So maybe it's like, all right, today I want you to focus on dipping down on your heels and let those elbows drop a little bit, right? So there's like the cues for the group, and then they go in and they start doing it, and then you got to watch and see. And if somebody, I mean, I don't know how you would work in, like, squeeze your glutes, but maybe it's a shoulder blade retraction. If they're massively protracting their shoulders, right, when they're trying to rack that bar and they're just like this with this massive upper rounded back, then you almost got to give them the cue of, like, retract your shoulders a little bit, something to get them to do that, right? And I can show you that the other Anthony Lowe thing where it's like how retraction like this in your shoulder girdle is a weaker position than like a neutral shoulder
No, I can
girdle,
see that
right?
because if you think about that, it's just like if you were to go forward, if you're retracting.
Right.
You want to have
I
that
can
nice
just
neutral
push
position.
you backwards like that. So
something a little not contradictory, whatever. A little opposite of what I just said. Even though I had done the whole squeeze and whatever, I was thinking the whole time while they were warming up, and I was thinking about how I was going to coach this, how other ways I was going to approach this, and in my head, and I was like, you know what? Because you don't want to coach and say, don't do this, don't do this, don't do this. You want to positive reinforce, just like when you have kids. You don't want to negatively, tell them everything they're doing bad. You want to say, okay, good job on that. Let's focus on that, right?
Yeah.
So I think another part of overcoaching is, are we positively doing it or are we negatively doing it? Yes, people have all these issues, but are we neglecting to give them that positive feedback? So this morning I had turned on the radio, I went up and I was like, you know what? And I tried to use my verbiage to make it seem like a positive challenge, like get them in that competitive mindset to be aggressive. So I said, I have a challenge for you, on your next lift, I want you to focus on being assertive, being aggressive, going up to the bar and having a purpose for it. Don't just kind of, right. Own the movement is what, like, one of the biggest things I say, that, like, I use that line all the time. Own the movement. Don't let it own you, because, otherwise everything will go to shit, right?
Right.
And so I try and stayed with the positive and ended up getting some good lifts out of them after that, And so I think, coming at it as a positive aspect and saying, hey, I have a challenge for you. How about you try this? And see how that feels, be aggressive with it. And it wasn't even necessarily like a technical thing. Maybe, obviously as a coach,
it was like a
we don't want to, right. We don't want to say, a lot of the times people don't understand that, right? That's the reason why cues don't click, is because we have all this technical knowledge, all this, we're so smart. We've gotten all this education behind us, and we want to give it, the passion puts it out. But sometimes it's as easy as just be aggressive, want to do it, want to get that heavy lift. Just, have the power behind it. Don't just kind of
and let them figure out.
Let them figure it out. Just like kids, you as many times you tell the kid don't touch the stove, when's he really going to learn? When he touches the hot stove, right? So it's one of those things. Okay, obviously we don't want to injure our people. That's when you come in the technical aspect, but kind of gearing away from the technical terms of it, so to speak, because we could talk about muscles. I find myself, you start using anatomy, they're like, okay, put it on your anterior deltoid, or and your clavicle, all these other fancy words with your muscles. Say your quad. Some people don't even know what a quad is, so it's like, to say squeeze your quad, you're like, okay, so kind of keeping it simple of, all right, let's dip powerfully and aggressively, and then like punch the sky. We don't have to necessarily always say like, okay, we're going to extend and externally rotate our elbows. And, you start getting those big words and you're like, what? And even in the warm-ups, I find myself, I'm like, like, all right, we're going to turn in our hip flexor and our quads. And, like, you start saying all these muscle groups, but it's like some people, their education, they don't know muscle groups, When you think back to it, the reason why we know these is because this is our passion. We know muscles. We know, even the smallest, some people don't even know where their bicep is. Just to be flat out honest, people don't know muscles. So sometimes, like, as a coach, even though we know this information, maybe just taking it back a level, and that's what we're here for, is Barney style, to dumb it down and, be the transition from our education, our knowledge, to teach them, like, to be that barrier that helps them realize, okay, I'm going to do this movement and I'm going to be aggressive and strong in it. Then once they get that down and they have kind of become that autonomous person and know a little more education because you've taught them, like, okay, so now that you've told them to be aggressive, be powerful, now explain that this is our anterior deltoid, right? So we're going to rest that there. And then, like maybe learn the external rotation or whatever you want to say with the lockout. But until they have mastered the movement and being aggressive with it, rather than just kind of, you see like when people do the jerk, they kind of turn into like push press, or they get like, they do that hop and they're like soft and they push with their upper body rather than dropping down. So just saying, being aggressive and shooting yourself underneath the bar. Like that's probably one of the best cues I can think of. Shoot yourself underneath the bar, because that's kind of like another cue of simultaneously push yourself under the bar and lock out, so when you start thinking and breaking it down, okay, so I'm going to push myself underneath the bar, you can already see your mind, all your gears turning like, okay, there's so much I got to do, but really the baseline of the movement is power, speed, and quickness. So you tell them to do that and then see how they move from there, then you can kind of break it down. But I feel like maybe this whole, since our whole thing is about overcoaching, so we'll break it down and we'll end it with 3 things. So we got, that positive reinforcement, Barney style, kind of just that mental aspect. Okay, be aggressive with it, be assertive, own the movement. That's the first thing. Own the movement. Because if you don't own the movement,
you're fucked.
What are you gonna do?
Yeah.
How am I gonna coach you if you don't know, if you're not gonna be aggressive in the first place? Sure, you may be aggressive and do it wrong, but we can fix that.
Right.
When you're kind of like half-assing it because you want to go through the motions, it's not about going through the motions.
Aggression's
you
like
do it.
I'm
that's
100%
why,
committed.
That's why they say, okay, if you want to master the barbell, they are assertive with that barbell. That's the first thing. So I think we've now connected it all back to that conversation we were just having with how we don't want to be masters of everything, but you know what? We kind of do. You have to be. You have to have that mindset. Even if you're not going to be those elite athletes, you have to have the mindset that you are the best of yourself, the best of.
And you know what? You might get somebody who's got a PhD in anatomy, and they're going to be like, okay, so you're asking me to internally rotate, right? Like you got to be prepared to kind of have that question, those people who are going to be that detail oriented.
But how often is that the case? Like we say, we have soccer moms,
right?
We have high school athletes who maybe took a semester of anatomy. Are we really going to tell them to engage your gastrocnemius while you like a triple extension? Are you going to tell them to use their calf muscles?
And we'll talk about high school athletes on another.
Oh yeah, that's
another one. But it's. I think like just to kind of bring it all together is like
it's like because our passion comes out, we want to seem so credible and so educated that we use the big words.
Yes, but use the big words.
I think what makes us better and more credible is being able to relate to the person we're teaching or coaching, and realizing they don't know that. That's what we're here for. We're here to teach them the different muscle groups. We're here to teach them the different positions. They're not going to know it. So let's start from the basics and say, do this movement, be aggressive with it. Get that aggressiveness with the barbell first. If you can get that, boom, you're good. Let's put some weight on it. And then like you were saying, they can master it with a broomstick. Well, that's what we're just having them do. We may not say, use this muscle, do this, use that, externally rotate your elbow, have that nice cocked wrist when you pull up. It's just saying, all right, do it, have meaning to it, have aggression, And
it's okay to fucking.
If you make a mistake, that's fine, because then you're teaching them failure is okay, which isn't that the whole point of weightlifting anyways? You can't have victory without failure.
Yeah, you gotta fail.
In order to get better and get that next 5-pound PR, you got to fail a couple times, right?
And it's all right to keep it simple and give them a cue. A cue even, right? It doesn't have to be
just one. You don't gotta do
give
more.
them just one fucking cue.
That's all that matters.
It'll depend on what you see. And I think that's good. I think that's good. I think that kind of like gets the point across. I'm fired up. I'm ready to go bang some weight anyway right now. So, we'll put this out there. Let us know what you think of it. Give us some positive or negative feedback. We're going to need to come up with a show title. So until the next time, this is Denny. Adios.
Later.